Hi and welcome to British Girl Bakes. I'm going to show you how to make these beautiful little donuts, which are ridiculously easy to make and a great way to use up any extra cake batter you have. You'll need a silicone donut mould, and this one is from a Japanese dollar store, so you don't need anything fancy. You can make these with any butter-based cake batter, and I've put the links for my vanilla and chocolate cake in the description below. You can make a batch especially for these if you want to make quite a few, or if you have a bit of batter left over after filling your cake pans, this is a fun way to use it up. The easiest way to do this is to spoon your batter into a piping bag without a piping tip, just with the end of the bag cut so that there's a hole. Squeeze the batter in a ring around the donut mould, making sure you don't overfill the mould. Every cake recipe is different as far as how much it rises. So for example, my chocolate cake doesn't rise as much as my vanilla cake, so I can use more chocolate batter. But I know I need to be quite stingy with how much vanilla batter I'm piping into the mould. I'm going to overfill this final donut to show you what happens. The batter will come up out of the mould when it bakes, so instead of your donut being nice and rounded, it will overflow to make a big blob like a muffin top. And it can also close up that signature hole in the middle of the donut. Depending on your cake batter, you may or may not choose to grease the mould. My vanilla batter doesn't stick to the mould, so I don't need to grease it. And you can see how easily these come out of the mould. But my chocolate batter does stick, so if I don't grease the mould, when I turn the donuts out, they break apart like this. If I spray cooking oil into the mould and then bake the donuts, they don't stick to the pan, but they come out of the oven with little holes, where the oil pooled in the mould. This will mostly be covered with a glaze, so it doesn't matter aesthetically, but it can also create slightly darker and slightly crispy donuts, because the oil burns the edges of the donuts. And you can see that here on these donuts that were cooked in a greased mould, compared to these donuts on the left that were cooked in an ungreased mould. So, if you need to grease the mould, I recommend either rubbing the moulds with just a little bit of butter, or spraying them with oil and then using a paper towel to dab the mould gently to mop up any excess oil. And this is how the chocolate donuts baked when I did that. The baking time for these will be a bit less than they would be for cupcakes, partly because of the hole in the middle, so the cake part of the donuts is thinner than a cupcake, and partly because silicone heats up more quickly than a metal cupcake mould. For example, when I bake cupcakes with this vanilla batter, they take 16 minutes to bake, but for donuts it only takes 12 minutes. For chocolate, cupcakes take 17 minutes to bake, but donuts take 14 minutes. You can tell when these are ready because when you poke them gently, they should spring back. Take the mould out of the oven, let it cool for about a minute to give the donuts a chance to set, and then flip the mould out over a cooling rack, peeling the mould carefully off the donuts to leave them behind as you lift the mould up. If you're enjoying this tutorial, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel for new cake decorating tutorials every week. Click the notification bell so you don't miss a tutorial. When the donuts are completely cool, it's time to decorate. My favourite topping for these is chocolate ganache. I almost always have some ganache in the fridge because I make drip cakes very regularly, so I've melted this in the microwave for 40 seconds at 60% power because I didn't want to burn it. And now I'm pouring and squeezing it into a bowl a bit bigger than my donuts. I'm picking the donuts up, flipping them over, and dunking them in the ganache to cover them about halfway up, flipping them back over and leaving them to set on the cooling rack. Before they set, you can add any sprinkles or other ingredients, but you have to be quick because once the ganache hardens, any toppings will bounce right off. I only have 10 donuts here, so I'm going to dip them all and then sprinkle them all. And I'm using two types of sprinkles, these chocolatey looking ones and these fun colourful ones. You can use coloured ganache as well, so for the next batch of donuts I'm making pale blue ganache and pale pink ganache, using candy melts and cream. I cover how to make dark chocolate and white chocolate ganache and how to colour it in my online course on 10 cake decorating techniques. And you can find out more by clicking the link in the screen, or I've put the link in the video description below. For the candy melt ganache I've used a 4:1 ratio of 40 grams of candy melts and 10 grams of heavy whipping cream or double cream, microwaving it at 50% power for 2 minutes and stirring it until it's smooth. Now I'm pouring one colour of ganache into the other, stirring it gently to mix them together just a little bit, and then dipping the donuts to cover half in the ganache. angling the doughnuts and re-dipping to get the coverage I want. You can leave them like this, or add some sprinkles before the ganache sets. Instead of ganache, you can make a glaze for your doughnuts, but this isn't my favourite way of decorating them because glazes are very sweet, and to get the right consistency to dip the doughnuts, the coverage isn't as good as it is with ganache. To make enough glaze for 6 doughnuts, sift 1 cup of powdered sugar into a bowl and whisk in 2 tablespoons of whole or full-fat milk. Add 1 teaspoon of vanilla and pour it into a wide, shallow bowl. Dip your doughnuts, and you can spoon more glaze onto them to get better coverage. You can add colour to your glaze, either mixing completely or just marbling the colours together, and then dip the doughnuts or spoon the glaze over the top. You can add delicious toppings like Oreo crumbs, sliced almonds, sprinkles, whatever you like. Store the doughnuts in an airtight container for a day or 2, or decorate a cake with them. Thanks for watching! Subscribe to my channel for new cake decorating tutorials every week.